So similar to our previous video, in this video we're going to be going over what are the 5 best SMGs to use currently inside Warzone after the Season 5 update. If you do enjoy this style of content, don't forget to subscribe as we're trying to reach our goal of 50k. Click that link and subscribe to our second channel, and let's get straight into this. So as always, what we have here is our TTK spreadsheet with the mixed shot locations that you see on screen just now. Now obviously we know some SMGs got buffed, some SMGs got nerfed, and we are going to cover all of that in this. Now, a couple of nerfs we talked about was the Blixen as well as the Mark 5. Both of those SMGs have been meta for quite some time, but I do still think they're very solid SMGs. Buffs happened to some of the Modern Warfare SMGs, surprisingly. Guns like the Striker and the P90 got buffed, but I mean, it's not really going to change the landscape of the meta too much in my opinion. Now, of course, because we are talking about main aggressive SMGs that you pair with a rifle, we're mainly focusing on that first damage range right here, and let's organize this in terms of the fastest TTKs. Now, unlike the assault rifle video we made earlier on, we don't really need to look at recoil too much because it doesn't really matter all that much when it comes to SMGs unless we are talking about sniper supports, but we are just mainly talking about the aggressive snipers right now. So as we can see here, we have the Mark 5 in akimbo. Not really all that valuable just off the fact that you can only hit fire with this build, so it doesn't really make too much sense to go for that. Type 100 is a solid gun for TTK if you do want to use it, especially on solos, for example. However, the mag capacity lets this gun down an absolute ton, so it's not really going to be all that valuable. Armada did get a nerf, but it was mainly to movement speeds, and we have got a new build for you to make this gun feel just as good as it was before the nerf. So this is definitely going to be a solid meta choice. Sten is a pretty good gun. The only issue with the Sten is when you lift the rifle up, it kind of blocks your screen with a magazine. So I think that's the reason why not a lot of people actually use this gun. So definitely kind of try and stay away from the Sten a little bit, even though it is a pretty good gun for the most part. Then we've got the new RA225 SMG. Now, this is the main fastest TTK build with this weapon. However, I will go over and talk a bit more in depth of this gun in particular when we go over our list as well. You've got the Fennec, which actually got a bit of a buff as well, but it kind of has the same issue as the Type 100, where the mag capacity does let this weapon down a little. So even though it is a pretty solid gun, I'd maybe keep it to more solos, maybe duos as well. So don't really take it outside of that. Then we've got the Blixen, which with the new meta build, it's still a pretty good gun. So we will cover that in this video as well. Vanguard PPSH is more of that hipfire build, so more of a niche weapon. Still pretty solid TTKs, but it's kind of hipfire, so it's not all that reliable. Vanguard MP40, of course, with that short barrel on there, definitely still a solid choice. MP40 is always in the mix. Modern Warfare AUG is kind of too slow to use. Mark 5, definitely still a good gun as an SMG right now and as a sniper support. Owing gun, nail gun, Cold War MP5 is probably one of the better 5 attachment SMGs, and then we're moving on into some of the guns that have slower TTKs than even most of the assault rifles in this game at close range. So after all that's been said, let's get on into our top 5 best SMGs, and as always we do have an honorable mention, and that is the Cold War MP5. I do think the Cold War MP5 is an absolute solid SMG choice inside Warzone right now, especially if you don't like the Vanguard guns. Then this is probably the only 5 attachment gun that can actually compete in that list. So definitely, if you do want to try it out, this is the build for you. So sound suppressor, in my opinion, is the better option, but you can go for the agency if you need the recoil control. But personally, I like the benefits of the sprint to fire and aim down sight time, so that's why I would personally choose that one. Tiger Team Spotlight for the better movement speed. We do need it to compete with the Vanguard rifles, so that's why we use that. Radar Stock for the strafing speeds. It's not as good as it was way back in the day, but it's still going to help with that strafing speed nonetheless. Serpent Wrap for the faster aim down sight time, and then the 50 round fast mags. And the reason why we use the fast mags is because they don't block your screen as much, and on top of that, we do need a quicker reload, even though it does con your ADS, but we're making up for that with the sound suppressor and the Serpent Wrap. Now, at number 5 on this list, we still do have the Mark 5. I don't think it's the best SMG in the game by any means. but it's definitely still competitive within the meta of Warzone at the moment. So if you do like this weapon, it's still pretty viable. It's not going to feel as good as it did before. It did get a few recoil nerfs as well, so just keep that in mind when you are using this gun. You can make some slight adjustments to this build if it doesn't feel as good as it did before, so we'll quickly cover that now. So you do want to definitely use the recoil booster for the faster fire rate. And Reto Barrel, in my opinion, is still the best. It controls the recoil the most, and it's going to make it feel really good in that kind of medium range. Now, if you want the absolute fastest TTK, you can go for the body barrel, but again, I don't really think this is all that necessary, to be honest. Then we've got the slight reflector for the clearer sight picture. The Imreto stock is the best for movement speed. Momentum, or you could choose whatever perk you like here. Perk 2 is quick as always. We're using the tape grip for the faster movement speed, but you can actually use the polymer grip if you need that extra recoil control, because let's be honest, it did nerf the recoil of this gun a little bit. 48 round mags. Now if you don't mind having a bit slower movement with this weapon, then you can go for the 64 round mags. Now the only issue with this here is that if you do use the 64 round and you use the polymer grip, you're going to be moving quite slow with this gun. So I would recommend going for tape grip and the 64 round, or polymer grip and the 48 round. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're doing it. But if you just want super recoil control, then of course you can go for polymer and 64. But personally, this is my favorite build for this weapon. And then lastly, the Mark skeletal underbarrel, but you can also go for the compact underbarrel as well. So overall, in my opinion, this is the best build for the Mark 05, but again, you could choose the more recoil controlling build if you need it. At number 4, we have the MP40. This is a no-brainer gun to use, especially when the meta is kind of up in the air. We don't really know what's going on. MP40 always slots in pretty well at any point in time. So this is the best build. This didn't really get touched with any of the nerfs or anything like that, so it's still going to be pretty solid. So definitely recommend the MP40 with the recoil booster for the faster fire rate, short barrel, which is going to give you that extra damage. So just keep that in mind. Definitely the best barrel for the MP40 right now. Slight reflector, the Krosnick folding stock. You can go for the remove, but I feel like you just get too much recoil with that. Then you can use steady perk for the better movement speeds. Perk 2 is quick. Tape grip for the better movement speed once again. 45 round Grenco mags. As always, hollow point's going to give you a slightly faster TTK and hand stop underbarrel, but you can also go for compact. You can also go for the skeletal as well. All are really good options here. At number 3, we have the H4 Blixen. Now, the H4 Blixen kind of gets nerfs all the time, but it's still a solid choice. The TTKs that you've seen on the spreadsheet are still very viable with this build right here. So not really too much has changed, but we'll go over what the changes are. So you do want to use the recoil booster for the faster fire rate. You do now want to actually use the RMK barrel. It's going to give you extra damage. And the other barrels don't really help all that much anymore. So you want to make sure you're using this one to get the fastest possible TTK with the H4 Blixen. Slight reflector, I would go with the Bergstrom stock now, because the RMK barrel actually conjure recoil unlike some of the other barrels, so just keep that in mind. You still do get a movement speed bonus with this, but not as huge as a con to recoil. Slight fleet as the perk 1, and that's just for better movement speeds. Perk 2 is quick as always. Tape grip for better movement speeds once again. You can also go for the polymer grip if you really want to, but personally I think the tape grip is the way to go. Grenco 54 round mags is still the best choice when it comes to time to kill, so just make sure you're still choosing this mag, even though it did get a bit of a nerf. It's still going to be the solid choice. Hollow point for the better TTKs, and I choose the Carver 4 grip to make up for the recoil con of the barrel. You can also choose the compact, you could choose the hand stop. It's up to yourself what you really want to choose here, but I think the Carver 4 grip just works really well with the build that we're trying to make. So overall, H4 Blixen is still kind of in the meta when it comes to SMGs. Now, when it comes to the number 2 gun, it's going to look a bit weird because we're jumping back to the sim.gg website, and that's just because I want to show you the actual TTKs of changing certain attachments on this gun right here. So this is the RA225 SMG. Now, what you're seeing on screen just now is my personal favorite build for this gun. Now, you want to use the recoil booster, of course, with the faster fire rate, the needle barrel, which is going to help with the horizontal recoil, the slate reflector. We've got the MB stock, which is one of the better stocks when it comes to giving you movement speed. We've got tight grip, of course, is going to help with recoil. Quick, which is also going to help with movement speed. Tape grip, which is going to help with the movement speed. The 55 round drums, which is obviously what we're going to need for when it comes to quads and trios. Hollow point as always, and the skeletal underbarrel. First we'll take a look at the TTKs with this build, which is my personal favorite build. So we'll scroll down to the mixed shot location TTK, which is exactly the same mixed shots that we had at the start of this video, so you can see a good comparison. And at close range, which is what we're mainly focusing on here, we've got 691 milliseconds, so almost a 700 millisecond TTK. Now, when you compare it to some of the other weapons in this game, now it's not obviously the fastest TTK, but it's definitely a solid choice SMG. Now, if you do want the absolute meta build for this gun, then you can change it to this build right here. So what you want to change is change to the rapid barrel for that faster fire rate by 157 rounds per minute, which is absolutely insane. Slate reflector still, you still want to use the same stock. Tight grip is still going to help now, absolutely. Then you might want to go for the polymer grip here actually, that's just to help with the recoil a little bit more. Now you can get a faster TTK with the 38 round mags, as you can see, it helps with the fire rate, but the only issue with that is, again, you're going to burn through ammo very quickly, so I would not recommend choosing anything other than the 55 round mags. Let's look at the TTKs now. So now looking at the mixed shot location TTKs, at close range we get a 588 millisecond time to kill, which is absolutely competitive with guns like the Blixen, with guns like the Type 100, and all the faster killing SMGs. So like I said, this is absolutely a meta SMG right now, especially with these time to kill values. Having said that though, nothing beats the #1 SMG, which is the Armada. Now this gun did get a nerf to movement speed, but if you do use the build that we're showing on screen just now, you're not really going to be affected by this all too much at all. And overall, this is a great sniper support SMG, and on top of that is a great SMG just in general to be aggressive with. Now, you do want to use the recoil booster for the faster fire rate. You actually want to use the Imreto 550mm barrel. It's going to help with the recoil control and still be super accurate. Then you get the slate reflector. The folding stock is the best stock for this gun. Steady for that strafing speed, so you can still feel a little bit free when you're shooting and firing. Perk 2 is quick. We are using the tape grip as well here because we do want to get that movement speed back in the weapon. 60 round mags, hollow point, and then the compact underbarrel this time for that strafing speed once again. You can go for the skeletal if you really want the extra standard movement speed and ADS time, but I think the compact is the best choice here. So there we have it. Those are 5 of the best SMGs inside Warzone right now. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe as we try to reach our goal of 50k. We will have a sniper support video out very soon, and thank you very much for watching.